next a week. Unemployment in the UK is down again. In the 3 months to March, the total number of people out of work fell by 35,000 to a 7-year low of 1.83 million. The unemployment rate now stands at 5.3%, which is the lowest since 2008. Well, the new Employment Minister, Priti Patel, joins us live now from Westminster. Good to talk to you, Ms Patel. I should say congratulations on your new role. How is it being in the Cabinet?
Well, look, I mean, it's an important role, and obviously, you know, with the employment figures out today, it's good news, welcome news to see more jobs being created, you know, helping to secure a better future and better prospects for the British economy and for individuals.
Wage inflation is still an issue, isn't it? It is going up now. It had been going very, very slowly, but it's still very slow, isn't it? How do you tackle that?
Well, look, I think we have to look back to where we were back in 2010, the Great Recession, what that meant for the economy. People lost their jobs, people's incomes suffered dreadfully. And obviously over the last 5 years, through our economic plan, the work that we have done, the economy has grown, 1,000 new jobs being created every day. And we are now seeing wages increase by 2.2%. That is welcome. And of course, let's not forget there are other measures that the government has undertaken to ensure that people start to keep more of their hard-earned cash. So increases to the personal allowance, for example, you know, which increased from £6,000 to over £10,000 under the last government, and we are committed to increasing that going forward as well. But other measures, you know, inflation is zero, fuel prices have come down, we cut council tax as well in the last government. These are practical measures that really help people in terms of keeping more of the money that they earn.
But as our economy is dependent on consumer spending, we do all need to earn more as well, don't we? We need more money in our pay packets.
Well, of course, as the economy grows, the economy strengthens. You know, it's all about having confidence in our economy as well. It's about ensuring that our job as government is to create the right kind of conditions for economic growth, for businesses to invest, so that we support businesses through the right regimes, the right kind of tax regimes as well, less regulations, so that they can expand their businesses, grow, thrive and employ more people. Importantly as well, of course, you know, we have one of the lowest rates of corporation tax. It's about encouraging foreign direct investment to come to the United Kingdom, to grow more jobs, invest in Britain, and that is important. That is vital to how we create more jobs, create more prospects and, you know, prosperity for individuals as well as our nation.
Prosperity and balancing the books, that was all part of the election campaign, wasn't it? One of the things David Cameron promised was £12 billion of cuts. How are you going to find those in your department?
Well, look, we're very clear when it comes to welfare and the 12 billion that we are focused on three key principles, and that of course is protecting the vulnerable, pensioners, disabled people as well, but importantly doing what we've been doing already, which is ensuring that work pays and getting people back into work, getting people off benefits through our reforms to the welfare system. With our growing and expanding economy, more jobs being created, 1,000 jobs every day in the last government. You know, we've got an ambition for 2 million more jobs to be created over this parliament as well, 3 million more apprenticeships. And of course this is about investing in people. This is about investing in people that may not have had skills and training before, young people in particular, our apprenticeship programme, but also by supporting businesses to make sure that, you know, they can employ people through the right way and creating, you know, real jobs, real people, real careers and new prospects for individuals as well.
I wonder how that sits then, this idea of encouraging people who are disabled to get into work, for example, with one of the proposals that was announced last week. It was announced on the day of the election, so it did get slightly ignored, that the Department for Work and Pensions is looking to examine cutting the scheme that helps disabled people get back into work. This is the Access for Work scheme, isn't it? Examinations on whether this should be capped. Do you think that's particularly helpful?
We are clear about this. You know, as we go forward, you know, we haven't had our Queen's speech yet. You know, there'll be a spending review that'll come out, and we'll put more detail around our proposals then. But let me reiterate and emphasise that when it comes to our welfare reforms, we are focused on employment, getting more people back into work, but also protecting pensioners and the disabled and the vulnerable as well. So, you know, those are the principles by which we will make our decisions. But as I said, you know, we haven't had a Queen's Queen's Speech, we've got a spending review coming up as well, and there'll be more detail going forward.
So can you give us a guarantee that the Access to Work scheme won't have cuts to it?
As I've said, we'll give more details as we go forward in the Queen's Speech and in the spending review. But let me reiterate, we will ensure that we will protect the vulnerable, protect the disabled and protect the pensioners as well.
But you won't necessarily protect the Access to Work scheme.
Not for
You can't
me
give
to
us an
come here
undertaking
today and actually speak about a specific programme. We are speaking in
are
the
indeed the minister in charge.
we are speaking about welfare efficiency savings going forward, but I've already said the categories and the principles by which we'll make our decisions. And importantly, this is about making sure that people can get into employment. We are the party in government that has reformed the welfare state. The welfare system was broken back in 2010 when we had people trapped on welfare, trapped into dependency. We have focused on making sure that we get people off benefits and back into work, and importantly that we support them on that journey as well.
But that's exactly what the Access to Work Fund does, isn't it? It offers help to people who have got hearing disabilities or are partially sighted, helping them to get back into work and helping provide equipment to allow them to work.
We will be protecting the disabled, the vulnerable and pensioners through our programmes going forward. But, you know, I can't give you details here because obviously we will have a spending review coming up. We've got the Queen's Speech coming up as well. You know, we've got all this coming up over the next few weeks. But the purpose of our welfare reforms will be a continuation. You know, we made the savings in the last Parliament as well, over £20 billion on welfare. And we will continue to do this by focusing on making sure that we get people back into employment.
Looking at the images around the Cabinet table yesterday, a lot of people, myself included, thinking it's fantastic to see so many women sitting around the Cabinet table. It's a very different looking government to ones we've had in the past. But one thing that also came up yesterday is both you and Michael Gove, two new ministers, he's the Justice Minister, you both advocated bringing back the death penalty in the past. Is that something that you're happy to stand by now?
No, look, I mean, I've been asked about this previously on a number of occasions as well. I made a comment a long time ago and said that it would only be appropriate back then, so not now, but back then, you know, when we have the most horrendous and heinous crimes. This is not something that is relevant to today's political debate or discourse at all. I'm very much focused in my job as Employment Minister, you know, supporting what we do, continuing what we do when it comes to growing our economy and getting more people back into work.
You might not think it's appropriate to ask it, but it is appropriate to ask whether or not you still believe it.
Look, I've told you already exactly when that comment was made a long time ago.
It wasn't that long ago, it was on Question Time.
I'll say it again, it was made a long time ago and it is not relevant to today's debate.
But do you still believe it?
Well, look, I said it back then when I was asked...
What do you believe now?
I made the point back then when I was asked the question in terms of the content with which I felt it would be relevant. It is not relevant to today's political debate and the subject that I'm here to discuss with you.
But why are you not willing to say whether or not you believe something?
Because I'm here to talk about employment today and the fact that we have the highest record of employment in our history.
OK, Priti Patel, thank you very much for joining us.